finance 6.1, right? And I asked you to try those first four. We'll go over those. What I'll do is once we complete that, I'll check that off for homework. So turn your book to finance 6.1. Looks like that. Can't see it. Okay. All right. Problem number one, you borrow $800 for 6 months at 16% annual simple interest. How much must you repay at the end of 6 months? Okay, so we're borrowing $800, and they say 6 months. 6 months, as far as a year goes, means it's 0.5 of a year. Does everyone feel comfortable with that? So it's important to make sure you get it in terms of years, not months. If it wasn't 6 months, it was something else. If it was 5 months, it would be 5/12, things like that. Okay. Phones away, please. So if we use just this simple equation, how much would you have to pay at the end of 6 months? So they also told us that we had 16%. So 16% is 0.16. So the items I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this in my equation. So A is equal to 800 E raised to the RT, so 0.16 times 0.5. Everyone feel comfortable with that so far? And hopefully the calculator's still up. Cool. So it's 800 second E 0.5 times 0.16 or 0.16 times 0.15, doesn't matter. All right, so 866.63. So 866.63 says how much must you pay at the end of 6 months? Okay, if you borrow this much, if you borrowed 800, this is how much you would pay at the very end. Okay, now these are pretty simple thought processes on stuff. This would be basically like a credit card. Okay, is it worth it to you to drop $800 knowing that you have to, for your $800, pay $866.63? Okay, and this is kind of one of the, just a thought of, do you really need that $800 item? Is it really worth that you're paying a company more money than you actually spent? These are questions and answers that you'll be faced with throughout all adulthood, which is, it is what it is.
Can you go over like what each thing stands for? Like what does E stand for? Like what?
E is the exponential on the calculator. So let me show you.
Oh, E is just like the value.
Yeah, it's
like the 2 point.
It's this button right here, second of natural log. So it's called the exponential. It's the inverse of natural log.
Okay.
And then the 800 is your initial investment or whatever you borrowed.
So it's P initial investment?
Yeah, or what you borrowed. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I converted the 6 months. You want your time to be in years, so 6 months is half a year. So I use 0.5 as half. And then the interest at 16%. And I'd say that's pretty legitimate as far as credit cards would go. Okay. I don't know how many of you have a credit card. Some of you might have a joint account with a parent. I will tell you, if you choose to go to college, be very cautious because there'll be some fancy balloons and nice tents, and you got music playing in the middle of campus, and they're giving away Frisbees and T-shirts and visors. Just sign up for this credit card. They lure you in. It's like, And usually when they start doing it is on a beautiful spring day. You're like, dude, I didn't bring a Frisbee with me, but I should have a Frisbee. Hey, sign up for this. We'll give you a Frisbee and a visor and a t-shirt. Oh, yeah. Usually the t-shirt is your college logo on this t-shirt, and on the back of it says Visa or whatever the sponsor is. But they're trying to lure you in. So please be cautious. Please be cautious. Use a credit card as a tool, not as a crutch. Okay? Problem number 2. So was problem number 1 okay? I'm going to feel good with that. Problem number 2. If you lend $3,500 to a friend for 15 months at 8% simple annual interest, find the future value of the loan. Okay? Well, you might not be that good of a friend if you're one rule I've kind of come to, I'm happy to buy friends lunch or dinner, breakfast, coffee, no big deal. I don't feel I need anything in return. Don't come to me as a friend saying, hey, I need to borrow money. I have a hard time with that. And it's not because I don't have money to loan. I just don't want something to come in the way of my friendship. Bless you. Okay, so 15 months. So 15 months converted into a year is going to be 15 over 12. Agree? Because there's 12 months in a year. So let's just do the math on that real quick. 15 divided by 12. So 1.25. Is that what someone said? Cool, thank you. And then 8% is going to be 0.08. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and plug that into our equation. And again, this is just our simple equation. So A equals 3,500. E for the exponential, rate 0.08, and 1.25. All right, 3,500. Second E. Was it 1.25?
Yeah.
And then 0.08 times 0.08. So you lended your friend $3,500. Your friend pays you back. You made $368.10 on your friend. Is that being a good friend? I don't know. Again, good rule of thumb. Money is a big bad thing. We all need it. But it stinks when you lend money and then all of a sudden you see your friend out and they're out having a good old time, going to concerts. Say, hey, you got my money? No, I don't have it yet. Just dropped $2,200 on a concert ticket though. I'll get it to you. Be cautious. I had a friend of mine, call him a former friend, Mike Callahan. Mike Callahan, he had issues. He was the fun person to hang out with in high school because he had issues. Became the bad friend to have later in life because he had issues. And he has a check from a company in California. And he tells me that he couldn't find his wallet, didn't have his driver's license, so he couldn't cash the check. Could I cash the check for him, which means it comes out of my account until the check clears, and then it goes back into my account. And it was for $1,500. Check bounced. Okay, it was a stolen check. So now I'm out $1,500. Because it's a bounced check, I have fees from my bank that I have to pay for a bounced check. And I have fees from the other bank that I have to pay because it's a bounced check. So that $1,500 cost me $2,000. Did I get any of the money back from Mike? No. He took the money I gave him got a bus ride back to Ohio. He hasn't come back. He tried to friend me on Facebook.
You should have done it and then figured out where you live. Just don't show up that way.
There's part of it I don't need Mike to know where I live, who I am, what I've done. Because there's some people that you come across in your life that it might have been fun in the beginning until they crush you. And this is real life experience. So that became one of those things. It seemed innocent enough to cash a check. Seemed likely he could have lost his ID. I don't know. All right, to buy a treasury bill, a T-bill, that matures to $10,000 in 6 months. So $10,000. This is what it'll be worth in 6 months. But you have to pay this much money in order to get it. We want to figure out what percent rate we're doing. So we're looking for R in this case. So I'm going to change 6 months to 0.5 year. Agree? Now this one, we're still going to use the same equation. But my unknown is R. Okay, there's a couple ways of doing this. So this is basically what I know. That's what I know. So I could go through the algebra. I could go through the algebra and do this. I could divide both sides by 9685.23. Divide that with 10,000. Then I could take the natural log and bring the exponent down. You might remember that from algebra 2. But it also might be one that you're like, I'm not 100% clear on that. Right? So let's say you didn't know how to solve that. I'm going to write this down because I'm going to go to my computer. 9685.23 e to the 0.5 r. Okay? So again, let me just show you the math that would go behind this. And I'm pretty sure that there's a couple of you that could probably do this math and feel okay about it. So you can do that, which gives you, 9685.23 equals e to the 0.5 r. And then you could do natural log of both sides. So you take the natural log of that. Those cancel then, and that gives you natural log of this (6) equals 0.5 r. Then divide both sides by 0.5, and that'll get you your rate. Seem good, right? No, come on. Our friend. Who's our friend? Starts with a D. Desmos. Okay, so again, a few of you, I bet you could probably go through and do this process. Okay, I know if you had me for accelerated algebra 2, we've seen this, but that was like 2 years ago. Okay. Some of you had just regular algebra 2. This is kind of a big meat and potatoes type of thing. Might not be in your wheelhouse. So when I say we're going to use Desmos, what we're going to do is we're going to look at our original equation. The 10,000 equals 9685.23 e raised to the 0.5 r. I'm going to graph each side individually. Okay? Firefox is installing updates. We'll start in a few moments. Come on, baby. All right. And I could have used the graphing calculator on as well, but Desmos, because it's easy to wheel around, and I know you all have it on your phone now, which is awesome. So I'm going to graph each side independent of each other and figure out where they intersect. I want to find the x value of the point where they intersect. So I have y equals 10,000. And I know some of you are just, you're not doing y equals. That might come back to bite you if you don't have y equals. Okay, 9685.23. And then e, I have to find the exponential. Let's see, functions maybe. Looking for e. I saw that exponential. I just wasn't sure if they had an e there. Is this what you're thinking? Okay. I'm going to try this first. Let me do this. Let me just see if this works. If I do e, yes, it did it. Okay, e raised to the 0.5x. Okay, so now we have to try and figure. So it's not going to show up right away. So I'm going to zoom out a few times. Oh, cool. There's my first graph. And I needed my other graph to get up to 10,000. So let's make this a little bolder. So if I zoom in here, and then click here, 0.064. Okay, 0.064. All right. So my rate is 0.064, which means it would have been 6.4%. Oh, that didn't work the way I wanted to. I like that way better. What do you think? It's a little nicer. Desmos is, or I could do the red, purple, and blue, which leads us to places that we could make errors. Realizing I'm doing the natural log of a fraction, so you have to be just real cautious with that. So while we can, let's just do this real quick to see, just decipher if this is the right way. So ln 10,000 over 96, how much was it? 9685.23 divided by 0.5. Can't have nice things just throwing stuff around. All right, let's do the math. Calculator, let's clear that. Let's do natural log ln of this, too many zeros, divided by 9685.23. Close it, and then hit enter, and then divided by 0.5. .64. 0.64. Agree? Does that round to 0.64 or 0.064? Yeah. So Desmos came out. They rounded a little bit, but am I really worried about 100th? No. Kendall, you had a question on that one. Does that make sense how I just did that?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So again, use Desmos, have both sides, send both sides equal to y. I know a lot of you, again, are Just put it in the equation without having y equals, and it might come back to haunt you. Find the future value if 8,000 is vested for 10 years at 12% compounded annually. Okay. So that's going to lead me into an equation we're going to use today. Okay. So this looks a little bit different than this equation. And I changed it to S, which is fine. Okay. Compounded annually. So M equals 1. Okay. So, and I didn't teach that equation too much yesterday, but it'll lead us into today, so you can just write this down, which is fine. So I'm going to go S equals 8,000. 1 plus, my rate is 12%, so 0.12 divided by 1 raised to the 1 times 10. And if you work that out, and again, I didn't talk about this equation yesterday, so I apologize, I handed it off to you. So is it 1 plus 0.12 divided by 1 raised to the 1 times 10. So your future value, oh, I made a mistake. It should have been 8,000, right? Your $8,000 after 10 years comes out to $24,846.79. You willing to tie up $8,000 for 10 years and turn around to get $24,800? Some of you might be. Does that follow with the rate of inflation? Any ideas what the rate of inflation is roughly?
2%.
Might be a little bit more now, but yeah. I don't know. I think that might be an okay investment. Again, you have to look at what inflation would be. Is it worth tying up money to do that? Is there better ways to make more money? I don't know. 12% is pretty darn good. So just some ideas. Cool. All right, so flip back a page to the back side of the notes, if you don't mind. At the very top of the equation, it has the two equations. It has this equation at the top. I'm going to put a note that sometimes m is equal to n in this equation. So they exchange the m's for n's. Doesn't change the problem. And then you also have this equation at the top. This is the page before that homework assignment. So if 8,000 is invested for 6 years at 8% compounded quarterly, find the future value and compounded interest earned. All right, so I have 8,000. This looks very similar to the problem we just did. This is at 6 years, and it's at 8%. But then they say it's quarterly. Quarterly means how many times a year? 4. So quarterly is 4 times a year. So that's going to be our M value. So I have S is equal to 8,000, 1 plus 0.08 over 4 raised to the 4 times 6. And if you plug that into the calculator, it's going to be more. Okay. This equation would be compounded continuously. This is the quarterly. It can be quarterly, it can be monthly, it can be daily, it can be bi-yearly, so twice a year, things like that. But that, if you plug this into your calculator, you're going to get some value. That's how you'd work that problem. The next one says, oh, so we haven't answered the question yet, so let's go with that. $8,000, 1 plus 0.06 or 0.08 divided by 4 raised to the 4 times 6 years. So your 8,000, your future value of your 8,000 is $12,867.50. Rounded to the nearest penny. What is the compounded interest earned? So I would subtract my original 8,000. So your 8,000 is worth 4,800 and change. You made that. Okay, and these are all things that, again, this quarter we're going to be focusing further and further. Is this worth your time and effort? Okay, and I'll show you some cool stuff on these calculators. I'll bring in a set. If you have this type of calculator, if it's sitting at home, start bringing them in, if you would, please. If you don't have one, I will have like 15 of them. So if we need to, we can pair up. It's not a big deal. Okay, for bless you. So the next example says, what amount must be invested to have $12,000 after 3 years if the money is worth 6% compounded annually, so compounded once a year, or semi-annually compounded twice a year? Yeah.
Going back to the first problem.
Yeah.
So the 12,000 was the future value, and then the 4,000 was the compounded interest rate. By subtracting 8,000.
Let me see if I can. Okay. Let's see. So that was the original problem, right?
Yes.
So we had that. So that's what our value would be worth, including our initial investment. If I subtract the 8,000 from it, that is the interest I would have earned. My 8,000 would have made me $4,867.50. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Next problem, it says, what amount must be invested in order to have 12,000? So this is my end. I have $12,000 that I have at the end. You have 3 years. And your M value for one of them will be 1. Your M value for the other one would be 2. Okay? So this is going to be 12,000 equals P, 1 plus our rate, 6%, 6%, right? 0.06 divided by 1 raised to the 1 times 3. Okay? The other equation is going to be this. Change 2 values. Okay? So, again, we could go through a whole process of doing this. I think we could probably do the math on each of them pretty easily. So we have 1 plus 0.06 divided by 1 raised to the 1 times 3. Okay, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to change the 1s to 2s. There's a 2 there, and a 2 here. Okay, pretty close, aren't they? 1.191, 1.194. Okay, so what I can do for the first one, that's how much you would have to invest to have the 12,000. If I did the second one, $1.914. Oops, I messed up. That should have been 12,000 divided by not. That was 1.194. Okay, so if I invested $10,075.57, I could have my worth 12,000. Or if I invested $10,050.25, so talking about $25 difference between the two that you have to invest. Okay, and that'd be something that if you're looking at accounts, hey, we have this or we have that. A lot of times this is offered like in different types of CD rate, ranges. Which one's better? Depends upon which bank is the easier one to do. It's $25. Let's say you have some bank in Maryland you want to invest in, that's going to get you more money, and you're living here in Colorado and you have a bank here in Colorado. Is it worth your $25 to deal with interstate, going from Maryland to here? And again, it's your choices. Investment has grown from $10,000 to $30,118 in 10 years. What is the interest rate? Okay, so let's go back here. So you went from 10,000 to 30,118 in 10 years. The rate we don't know. It's compounded annually, so M equals 1. So let's find the interest rate. So we have this equation we're using. So we have this. We're going to call Rx so we can graph it. How would you approach this problem? You divide both sides by 10,000, then take the 10th root of each side. Or we could use decimals. I like decimals. Let's see. I don't want that. I want decimals. Clear. So y equals 10,000. And what is the other one? Y equals did I do that? Oh, I made an error. Oh my goodness. This shouldn't have been 10,000, should it? Y equals 30118 and y equals, why is it capitalizing it? What was the other equation? I can't remember. Remind me to always have my keypad. It's easier to do. 10,000. Okay, there we go. One plus x over 1 versus just x. Raised to the 1 times 10. Is that right? Yep. So we have to zoom out, find the 30,000. So 0.117, which is 11.7%. And again, calculator handles this nicely. Annual percentage yield for an effective annual rate says APR or APY, annual percentage yield. 1 plus R over M raised to the M minus 1. The APY equals E to the R minus 1. So if it's quarterly or anything like that, you're going to use the M, and the other one should work nicely. So I think both of those equations are going to work very nicely for you. Will you finish? And I'll give you the rest of the period. Yeah, that should work. So finish finance 6.1. And I'll give you the rest of the time to work on it. Okay, so it looks like it's 1 through 14. Okay. Hang on, what time is it? 10:06. You know what? Don't do that. Finish 1 through 7. I thought I was giving you more time, so I'll cut that down for you. Is that okay?